boundary is.
Right now, probably about.
That's what I always drive all over town.
Yeah. Rocco, what's wrong with that picture? Real good, but here.
Doesn't have my green tag.
Did anybody answer the question? Does anybody see the electrical tape right here?
Yeah, I thought it was duct tape, I was gonna bring that up.
Well, what's the problem with that?
Drywall screws?
Well, the problem is why would they put electrical tape on the inside where all the connections are? Well, if you look here, they actually have a switch here that's a little bit wider than everything else, right? So they jammed it all in there. That's why it's missing the faceplate, right? So they had to scoot everything over, right? But unfortunately, when you scoot it all over, it hits what? Metal box.
Right.
So it arcs. So obviously, you want to insulate
So
it.
they taped it, see?
Yeah, they used tape on there to fix it. The problem is they installed this in the wrong box. They didn't have the room for it. They squished it all in there. They electrical taped that one and the one on the opposite end. So when they're up against the box, the metal box, they don't arc. So that fixes everything, right? Drywall screws. He's worried about drywall screws. But the things that we normally find out there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that was approved by the electrical guy. That was one of those
Are you kidding me?
taboo specials.
Oh, it's a boo.
You know, every time you
Electrical guy where?
Somewhere.
you touch that.
Somewhere.
Somewhere.
Not in here.
I am not
in
going to
here.
say Super Bowl. Not going to say Super
Every
Bowl.
time we use this.
Was
So,
it that
okay.
John from Avondale or?
All right, let's keep going.
Not on your life. Oh, good, they sent you the smoke canister, or you brought that?
Oh, I brought it. Yeah. What I'm going to do is wait for you guys to start falling asleep, and then we're going to get up and start testing the board.
Then you go test it.
I'm going to start asking for volunteers to do stuff because realistically, that's where the rubber meets the road, right? If you can't go out there and test the system, but you can review it on a plan, it doesn't do you a whole lot of good. So you need to be able to go out there and test them correctly and see how it's supposed to work. Now, some of the things are obviously demonstrated or they're improvised here to do that. All of this stuff actually functions. If you notice, fire alarm panel, what is it? It's all in the green, even though they dropped it.
Right, I see that.
So this panel is dropped again, and it's got a little bit issues on the screen, but it's working. It has no issues on it. This is a specialty detection device. It's kind of like a slave to that, not a slave. It's its own separate system that reports to that brain. Okay. Now these are all different devices, different types of detection devices, but they're all wired into the system. We're going to go ahead and do things like this: take it out of the system. Try not to knock this thing over, and make sure that it reports back to the panel, because this is an intelligent panel that's going to say, hey, are you there? It's polling. Remember, we talked about polling. And it's going to say, hey, are you there? Are you there? It polled, wasn't there, and all of a sudden, hey, it's not there. You need to send somebody to fix it. So they send me, Ray, the greatest technician ever, and then put it back together, put it back there. But what do I got to do? I got to acknowledge this thing's saying, hey, where is this? I'll put this here for you. You can mess with that later. Stupid keys. Okay, who did this to me?
Gently.
Now you look like a real
There you
technician.
go.
All right, here we go. So I'm going to acknowledge it,
Right.
and it's going to say, okay, you know somebody's here to help me. He acknowledged, and now I'm going to go ahead and hit reset, and it's going to go through the polling process again. It's going to verify all that stuff is still there, all the stuff that's programmed into its system, into its brain. It's going to say, I show 3 detectors, I show a couple of devices here. It polls all those devices to make sure it's there, and then it goes back into the normal operating condition, the little green LED. So that's what we're here to do, in essence. I'm here to teach you about NFPA 72, but we need to put it here, all the things that we learn out of 72, so we understand how the system's supposed to operate, so we can explain it to people, so we can test it to make sure that it's operating in the way it was designed to operate. Okay? We have magnetic door holder. Yeah, that's a good one. Stuck on there. We have our flow switch. Man, they whacked the heck out of this. I'm gonna pack this thing in something. We have a duct detector, and we have the test switch here, right? Because when do we have to have this?
You can't see it.
When it's too high, when you can't access it, right? Or if it's above the ceiling, you actually have to have this sensor below.
Okay.
It basically gives you the indication of which one it is. Because if you've ever been to a place that has a bunch of those, and you're like, well, which one is it? I don't know. Well, you got to go to each one. Well, they came up with this in the mechanical code, I believe, and you have to have that in there so you can A, test it, and B, so you know which one it is when you get into trouble and that one's, you know, offline. This is to simulate the fan of the fan motor for that unit, for that AC unit that you're testing. So when we set this off, that should go off. And this is just a switch here when you're simulating turning on and off the AC unit. Okay? We have the tamper here, right?
Right.
So as soon as you get a certain distance, it should show on the panel that, hey, we're in tamper. So if you come over here, you should be able to look at it. It says tamper zone 3, supervisory. So it should tell you exactly what it is. And on the inside of the panel, if you have a zone, it would tell you exactly where it's at, or you have a map or something like that to indicate.
Right.
So I'm going to go ahead and acknowledge it so it doesn't drive us crazy, and the people next door. And then I'm going to reset it. Why did it reset?
Because you didn't
Still-
fix it
Still
yet.
in, so it's thinking about it, saying, no, it's still in that tamper situation. I gotta correct that situation first, and then I can come back here and hit
Yeah,
acknowledge,
and reset.
and then you reset it. How many of you monkey with the panels? Not supposed to, right? We're not supposed to touch it. We're supposed to tell them to touch it so they can break it. And you go, I don't know what happened, right? But the thing is if you never come out and touch these panels, you never know how they work. Right? How many of you have ever programmed a panel? Nobody. So how do you know they're doing it right?
Don't.
You don't. You take their word for it. But part of the test out here verifies that that system has been set up correctly. Right? If you start turning this and it says smoke detector, something's wrong. Right? We can verify that just by doing the manual tests and verifying the descriptions on the actual panel. Right? So we can test that installation of the program by looking at the inputs and the outputs and the conditions that occur, and then obviously what the signals are that are displayed on the panel. Okay, so we don't necessarily have to do that. It's good information to understand how they put stuff in there, how they do the programming. Great information. If you get the opportunity to do that with one of the manufacturers, please do that. Call me, I'll go with you. But you don't necessarily have to understand how this is going to work. Realistically, if it was screwed up, what do? Fix it.
Fix it.
You need to fix it. I'll be back. Call me back when you're ready. Here you go.
Yep.
Here's your notes. Okay? So we'll go ahead and start doing that stuff. I'm going to jump back to the PowerPoint real quick. We'll cover some more stuff. As soon as you guys start feeling drowsy, we're going to stand up and wake people up. All right?
Cool.
Sound like a plan?
Sound like a
All right.
plan.
Here we go. Did everyone get an opportunity to take a look at this? We can pass it around some more if you guys need to. It's that 8 or 9 week course. If you guys need to, it's right here.
Where's the course gonna be held at and when's the next one?
We're looking at doing that, depending on the interest.
Oh,
That's
how
the-
would we have to know we're
School on the
interested?
community college?
It's actually not going to be at the community college. It's going to be at the Contractors Association, what is that?
IEC.
The IEC. They have an office in Tempe.
Yep,
Off
It's an
of,
independent electrical contract.
yep.
yeah,
Baseline and,
Hardy or something like that?
yeah, right off of Hardy.
Baseline and Hardy. So they're trying to offer that to their apprentices as part of their requirements to do that, because very rarely do electricians ever get the opportunity to deal with firearm stuff. Because who do they call first? Who gets the bid for the conduit and to run the wires? The electricians, right? Electricians get that. So all these guys are just bending wire and looking at plans. But the thing is who gets to fix it when it's wrong? The fire alarm guy.
Fire alarm guy.
Right? Fire alarm guy. So there's a disconnect, there's a gap in there. And one of the things that we wanted to do is kind of mesh that together so our journeymen can understand what's required. So if the plan says, hey, we're going to put, a device right above that door, and we're going to put in a box, we're going to hardwire that thing in there, so we're going to put in some conduit, pull the wire. He's going to go, wait a minute. I took this class, and there's some specific requirements for that. There are certain heights that you can put it at, and when they wire the box over here, they go, well, wait a minute, that doesn't make sense. I looked at the drawings, and that's the way the door swing is, so we can't put that manual pull station here. It's about providing information to people so the job goes smoothly, there's no change orders or very few, And so people communicate and go, hey, can we do this? And if we can't, what can we do? Okay, does that make sense? Provide the information, that way the job goes smoothly, costs them less money, get stuff in the right place, you get to write a green tag, nobody goes home angry. Make sense? All right, let's get started with the PowerPoint, or let's finish up where we were at. I think we killed that wiring thing. I think, is that where I was at? I think I was past that. Let's keep going here. Let's look at spot type detection. As you recall from earlier today before lunch, spot detection is specifically to protect a certain area, place, or piece of equipment. Okay? Spot detection, very clear in the code that you can actually do this even though you don't have full protection or full coverage. Okay? So the area or whatever it is gets treated as a separate area. These are some of the rules that come straight out of 72, out of their graphs and things like that. So you need to look at whenever you're doing coverage, or to look at coverage, and if there's any barriers to that coverage. If you have partitions, walls, semi-walls, soffits, things like that, you need to pay attention to that because there's specific rules as far as coverage because of the dynamics of how smoke works. So normally in an area like this will be considered a single room by itself. So you can't use this detector to cover this